This was, even by recent standards, a particularly deadly day in Gaza.
It happened in the dead of night, as it always does. No warning, no mercy, no moment to breathe. Just the roar of jet engines overhead, the scream of artillery slicing the silence, the ground rumbling with the weight of machines designed not for battle, but for annihilation.
We were taken by surprise. It was a massive Israeli strike. Dozens were killed, including women and children. As you can see, there was no one left alive.
And when it was over, if you could even call it that, nearly 100 bodies lay buried beneath the ruins of what used to be homes, tents, shelters. Children, mothers, entire families, gone. This wasn't a mistake. This was strategy. This was the deliberate, coordinated crushing of one of Gaza's most densely populated areas, Beit Lahia, by air, land, and sea.
In southern Khan Yunis, another family torn apart. 2 baby brothers, one 16 months old, one 6 weeks.
It was, by all definitions, a massacre. The ground invasion wasn't subtle. Witnesses say it came from every direction. Tanks rolling in from the west, artillery shelling from nearby hills, smoke bombs clouding the air, airstrikes from above, and warships pounding the coast. This was no raid. It was a full-throttle blitz.
More than 100 people have been killed or are missing following Israeli airstrikes on homes across northern Gaza. Civil defense teams are working to recover those trapped under the rubble. These latest attacks follow a series of strikes across the Strip on Thursday that killed at least 120 Palestinians.
In just hours, 9 residential homes and tents housing displaced families were obliterated. Dozens of calls flooded local civil defense lines, but rescuers couldn't even reach the victims. There was no way in. The roads were gone, the smoke too thick, the explosions too relentless. Entire neighborhoods were swallowed whole. Bashir al-Gandour, a survivor from Beit Lahia, said it was like waking up inside a nightmare. One minute, his family was asleep. The next, his brother's house collapsed in a cloud of dust and fire. 25 people had been inside. 11 were pulled out injured. 5 were dead, among them his nieces, aged 5 and 18, and his 15-year-old nephew. His brother's wife was never found. She remains under the rubble. Another unnamed casualty in a war that counts bodies in mass graves and statistics, not names and dreams. They fled barefoot. No food, no clothing, no time. Just the smoke behind them and the ground still shaking beneath their feet. Another father, Yusuf Salem, barely escaped with his 3 children. An airstrike took out the house next door. No one survived. Artillery shells began slamming into the ground around his own home. And when he made the first desperate attempt to escape, a drone opened fire. A quadcopter drone, the kind that hovers above neighborhoods like an executioner, tried to kill a father running with his children. They made it out the second time, slipping down side streets as tanks circled. He called it what it was, just minutes before death. But this isn't just a story of bombs and bodies. This is a story of nowhere left to run. Israeli warplanes dropped leaflets over neighborhoods, telling families to evacuate immediately. But go where? To the south, where just one day earlier, Israeli airstrikes had killed more than 120 people. To the shelters, the schools that have already been flattened. Sana Maroof, a mother fleeing Gaza City on a donkey cart, summed up the horror in a single sentence. I swear I don't know where we're going. No food, no water, no mattresses, just grief, exhaustion, and the silent knowledge that there may be nowhere left that's safe. Her voice cracked as she remembered the night. I saw people torn to pieces. It was a black night. They were relentlessly bombing us. And yet, Israel calls this a targeted operation. Their official line? They're eliminating terrorist infrastructure. But where is that infrastructure exactly? Is it under the schools now crumbling with children still inside? Is it inside the tents where displaced families were sheltering for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time? Is it hidden beneath the rubble of hospitals, bakeries, and playgrounds? Because what the world saw last night wasn't precision, it was carnage. The Israeli Defense Forces claimed over 150 terror targets were struck in 24 hours. They talk of missile sites and tunnels, but the dead tell another story. The footage, the survivor testimonies, the bloodied faces of children wandering alone through smoke, that is the infrastructure being dismantled. And while the bombs fall, Gaza starves. Israel's government isn't just bombing Gaza, They're strangling it. For 10 weeks now, a complete blockade has denied food, water, and medicine to a population of over 2 million. Aid convoys are stopped, warehouses emptied, people are digging through garbage just to feed their children. The United Nations has warned, clearly and repeatedly, that Gaza is on the brink of famine, not food insecurity, not hunger, famine, mass death by starvation, the kind of thing you only read about in the footnotes of history books or see in faded black and white photos. But this isn't history. It's now. It's tonight. The Israeli government says the shortage isn't real, that Hamas is hoarding the aid, that there's plenty of food in Gaza, that the problem is distribution. But on the ground, there are no flour bags, no rice, no baby formula. What there is are mothers boiling leaves to trick their children's stomachs. What there is are babies dying of dehydration. What there is a human-made disaster, not a byproduct of war, but a weapon of it. Israel's defense minister openly admitted it, calling the blockade a main pressure lever. And the international community, it watches, it wrings its hands, it sends UN reports and deeply concerned tweets. But it does not act. Even the United States, Israel's closest ally, is showing signs of discomfort. Donald Trump, boarding his flight home after a regional visit, said, "We need to help the Palestinians. A lot of people are starving." Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the situation troubling. But words do not feed children. And while diplomatic meetings drag on in Doha and ceasefire proposals gather dust, people are dying. Every hour, every minute. Since October 7th, over 53,000 people have been killed in Gaza. Let that number breathe. 53,000 lives. That's more than the entire population of a mid-sized American city. It's more than the death toll of some entire wars, and it grows by the day. There are still 58 hostages being held by Hamas, but there are also 2.1 million people being held hostage by the international community's inaction. And if the goal is to save lives, then who is saving Gaza? There are no good options left, only good people refusing to look away. And the world must choose between propaganda and pain, between political convenience and truth, between sanitized press briefings and the screams of a father pulling his daughter's corpse from the rubble. The war is not just being fought with missiles, it's being fought with words, with silence, with moral calculus. And right now, the cost of that silence is being paid in the blood of innocents. What happened in Beit Lahia wasn't a military operation. It was a warning, a declaration that no place is safe, no child untouchable, no home sacred. The question is whether the world will hear it, and if it does, whether it will finally say, enough.